Okay, everybody, I'm going to get us started. And I know that this is a snow day and everybody is, there's no class, so no big deal about this. But I'm going to go ahead and do the part, at the very least part one tonight, and so that it will be there for you. Before we get too far, I want to make sure that we do some housework and kind of stay on top of things. We have the 4-access workshops that are going to be coming due. And I wanted to make sure that you know this is a file that covers them. This tells you exactly what should be for Access Workshop 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are the files. Okay, we've worked on each of them. And that's what I want you to upload in those 4 Access Workshops. Now let's go over to the syllabus for a minute. Okay. And we'll take a look at that. And I moved these assignments back to Monday the 26th. Okay, today, as you can see from my clock, it is Thursday the 22nd. And so, tomorrow, we don't have class tomorrow. This class doesn't meet, but the school will probably be open. So my expectation is that you will go ahead and have these uploaded and by Monday by 6 p.m. Okay. Also, I went ahead and extended the Rockford exam number 2 and exam number 3. Both of those are due Monday. They were originally due tonight at 6 p.m. Okay. Now, look, I understand there are going to be some of you are going to say, well, I did the work ahead. I blah, blah. I understand that. I understand it completely. And I don't have control over the weather. I do what I can do. But I am giving everybody, if you haven't submitted your work, you have till 6 p.m. Monday the 26th. All right. And that's a non-negotiable. I could go ahead and make these things due tomorrow, theoretically, because the school will probably be open. But I'm being nice and giving you the weekend. I've already told you what to upload over there, okay? And then these are open book, open note tests. So I'm a little uncertain as to what else at this point I can do for you. Okay, well, we're going to be moving into that part of the course, and then on March 1st, where we start to work with the lunches database, okay? And again, I want to go over here to Amazon for just a second to get you all acclimated in terms of the text, all right? And we're going to be working in SQL Fundamentals 3rd edition. They'll let me there we go. The 3rd edition, this is the Patrick text. This is the one that we're going to be using, and we'll take a peek inside, okay? And we'll go down the table of contents, and you'll see, all right, that we have these, each chapter, as I mentioned last time we met, moves us into a progressively more complex situation to the point where at the end, we're talking about the design of SQL, etc. Okay? And as I had mentioned, the way that this kind of works is, and you'll see this in the Patrick text, he will give you some he'll give you some problems, okay, and then show you a beginning table and then the result table. So we'll want to work with this. Now, I want to go back over here for a moment, and let me see if we can pop down over here. Good. All right. I don't know if I want to go to the data dictionary, but this is our Oracle. So, but you see, he always shows us the table before the changes, and then after the changes. Okay. And this is again. So you'll see that as we go through the course. So I'm going to close that off there. I don't believe that we need to do too much more with that. But I do want to make sure that we're clear about what's going on. Now, I want to go over here into the files, all right, and make sure that you understand what I'm after in terms of lunches database. Well, before that, let's just go look at the Patrick files, okay? This will kind of keep us on schedule, okay? And let's scroll down here and we'll see the Patrick materials. Here it is. And we're going to download that. It's the Patrick materials zip file. And we have we're opening this up and we have a file that has the code for each chapter. For example, here's for chapter 1. And we talked about that, you know, running those queries. And then of course here's the code for chapter 2. All right, and we'll go back up here. And let me go back here to the Patrick materials. Oops. There's the code, and then we have this database SQL fund, and we're going to use it because it has tables in it, and we're going to run queries on those tables, okay? So I'm going to open up the access code for chapter 1, all right? That's here in a notepad. And I'm just going to simply diminish this down. And then I'm going to go back to the Patrick material, and I'm going to get the SQL fund. And I'm going to open it up. Okay, and I'm going to enable the content, and it's asking me to save this as something, and I'm going to save it as SQL Fund 2007, and I'm going to put Harmon LD1 1. Okay, I'll just put lunches DB1. And I'm going to save it on my desktop. Okay, and then I'll enable the content. Now I'm going to close this off, and I'm going to go down to the desktop, and I'm going to find SQL Fund Harmon DB1. I'm going to open it up. And now, and right now we're over in pages 23 through 30. Which introduces us to the concept of databases. Okay, we talked about the parts of a table, and you know, and a key point there in 15 is each cell should express this one thing. And then talk about the primary keys, and there in page 19, he talks about you know, tables usually have more rows than they do columns. He talks about some of the differences between Axis, and I'm over here in the chapter 1, okay? And then he shows us the employees table, all right? Well, we're going to go ahead and run this query. Now, look, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to run the query, although, you know, it's a little bit of busy work. I'm going to click Create, Query Design. I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to go down to the SQL view. I'll put this in. Now, the select from employees. Let me get this. Okay, so that you could see it. What we're going to do here is just simply paste and cut, and we'll run this. and this will show us what we've got. And this is, and I'm going to save this as one part 12. Okay. And basically what we did there, in fact, I think what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and dump this out on my computer. And I've got SQL Fun out there already. And there's the code. All right, I'm good to go now. Now, let me open this back up and show you the code for just a minute. Here's the code for chapter 1. All right, and what we're doing is saying here, this code 112 says select everything from the employees table. That's the asterisk. That's what it's telling you to do. So we did that. All right. So I've got this query in here, 1 part 12. And now I'm going to come back over to the Patrick text. And he wants us to, and now we're going to do for 114. I don't know why in the world he's going to have us repeat the employees, so skip that. But we're going to do departments. Okay. And here we got all of the department names. Now we talked about these dimension tables versus fact tables versus production tables and all that when we did the Access workshops. Okay. And we're seeing here that basically we have kind of a mixture of those tables. This is a dimension table. I'm going to call this, I'm going to save this as, and I'm going to call it, what do I want to call it? 1 part 14, 1 part and then department. Okay. You see, at the end of this, Dr. Harmon, when Lunch's database 1 is due, can I just upload the whole the whole database? Sure. Okay. Not a big deal. You can always just, you know, as long as I see the queries and what you upload, we're good. All righty. Now we're going to close that off. And this has been a fairly rote process. All right. And now I'm going to select from the Lunch's employees. And basically, he's just giving us some repetition here where we're going to use the select and then the asterisk, which says get everything. And that's from the Lunch's. Okay. So for now, this is Lunch's LDB1. And I don't know what benefit you get from doing this 8 times. I don't think you get much help at all. So you've got, you know, we've run a couple of queries, okay? And this is SQL Harmon Lunch's DB1. So what I would do is this. I'm going to close it off. All right. I'm going to diminish this, and this is my DB1. I'm going to come over here into the syllabus area. Okay. And Lunch's database, text 1, upload here. Okay. And I would just upload the DB I just created with a couple of those queries from chapter 1. Okay. So you know, we've basically, you know, worked with that. Now, if you and you should always have your textbook with you For example, you know, he shows us the different tables, the foods, the lunches, lunch items table, the suppliers table. And so we've basically run a simple query. Now, let me go down here to the settings. Well, I don't need to do that. Just, I've uploaded, and I would just upload that the SQL, and as I called it, what did I call it? I'll go down here. Okay, and I'll see what it is. It's SQL 2007 Harmon lunches DB1. Okay, so I've done DB1. Now I'm ready to go and work on chapter number 2. Okay, and if I want to, I can go ahead and use a fresh database. In fact, that's what I would recommend that you do. Okay, and we've got the access code, right? Or if you want, here's what I would do. I'm going to take this file and I'm going to copy it, right? And then I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to make this lunches DB2. All right, and now I just copied and pasted LD lunches database 1. I copied and pasted, and then I renamed this lunches database 2. So we're going to look at chapter 2, which starts with page 31 and talks about getting information, okay, from a table. All right, and we're going to do that. And I'm going to make sure I've got the code, and I want to open up the access code for chapter 2. All right, now we're going to see 2-2. Now at the start of chapter 2, he talks about the select, and he shows us at the bottom of page 33 a very nice pictorial of what happens. We have a beginning table, and then we exact out, we select items and get that out into a result table. Now 2-2, and that's over on page 34, starts with the select statement, okay? And so let's look at this. And again, this is not that difficult. When you do it enough times, it's going to start to sink in. Here we're using the select, which 99.9% of all queries are select queries. And we're going to get the employee ID, the last name, and the credit limit from the employees table. And now we're going to add a condition where the credit limit is greater than $20, and we're going to order it by last name. So we're going to sort this, we're going to filter it and then sort. So let's copy this, okay, Control, and I'm going to go back into my lunches database number 2. I'm going to open it up. You saved it on your desktop, renamed it, closed it, and then open it back up again. And then you've done lunches database 1, so you just upload it there. Now this will be lunches database 2. It will be only the queries from number 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click create and do query design, and then I'm going to go to the SQL view. Now I'm going to paste it in. Now again, I want to show you what we're doing. We're going to select the following fields: the employee ID, the last name, the credit limit, and we're getting that from the employees table. And then we're adding some conditions where the credit limit is greater than 20, and once we've obtained that, then we'll order them by last name. Okay, now that's, if you take a look at page 35, you're going to see the Oracle and Access SQL, and you'll notice there's some little notations there. There's a 1, 2, 3, and 4, where the author gives you some additional information about what he's doing there. And notice at the bottom of page 35, you see the beginning table and then the result table that we get. Okay, now I'm going to run this query, and there is our result. Now I'm going to save it as let's see, I'm going to call it two part. I think it's going to be 2 part 2. So I'm going to call it 2 part 2. Let's call it 2 part 2. Let's do this. 2 part 2. All right. And I'm gonna go ahead and do this. All right. 2. It'll be a P, capital P-A-R-T. 2 part 2. Okay. And notice. Now let's look at the design view, which is where, when you took 1123 with me, you worked at the design view. Okay, now we are going to be working at the SQL view. Okay, but if you could get the same thing done using the design tool, which is iconic, in other words, it has drag and drops, it shows you objects, fine. I don't care. All right, because if I look under here, I'm going to see the code. All right. Now, one other thing that's important to stress is this. When I run a query, okay, unless it's a query to append, create, or delete a table, I'm not changing anything in the table or update the table. The tables stay the same. When we run a query, what happens is we get what we call a view. You see this right here? Okay, also known as a result set. And the machine saves the code. Okay, so it's like it takes a photograph of it takes a picture of a picture for all intents and purposes. So all that's being stored is the code, not all this other data. You with me? So we've got that done, and we've done 2 part 2. And so I'm going to close this off. All right, and now we're going to, that was over on page 35. And page 34 provides an excellent overview of the select statement. And watch what happens. Select which columns have data to get from, which table has the data. I'm in the middle of page 34. Where, which rows of data to get. Do I want to group them? Do I want to make sure that they have some element or some expression, something in there? And then we order them. Okay. So now we did 2-2. Okay. And this is the SQL code for chapter 2. So now, look, we're going to skip this 2-3. It's simple. We've already done it. Well, what's the point? Okay. But we're going to do this one. And so I'm at 2-4. And I want to talk about this before we cut and paste it in and use it. What we're saying is select the employee ID, and then you see something different. As, that is an alias. So we're going to select the employee ID, and we're going to rename that column as employee number. We often use aliases in order to preserve, privacy of the data, to make sure someone doesn't know what table to call up to get data. And so we use this, okay, and that's why we call it an alias. So then I'm going to select the phone number, and I'm going to do another alias. This time we extension the last name, and then we're going to have what we call basically something hard coded in. This is excellent worker in single quotes as evaluation, 10 as rating from the employees table. So we're going to do this. Now, there are going to be some times when he tells us if that it will work, but we'll find out there are going to be some times that access is just kind of persnickety. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do table. I'm going to do table query design. Excuse me. I'll close this off. We'll go into the SQL. And let's run it. And there it is. Okay. And that one, we're going to save it. And that's 2 part 4. So I'm going to save this. Okay. Not you, but 2, TWO. As you notice, we're just doing progressively a little bit more. Let's go down to the design view, okay? And we'll see the expression. And we can get expressions, text expressions, as well as here, and here we use several column aliases. Again, it may be just to protect people from knowing the names of our tables so they can't call them up. Okay, and there we are. We'll go back up to the data sheet view. Now I'm going to go back in here for a moment into the SQL view, and I'm going to come in here and put select distinct and see what happens. And let's see what I get. Oh, didn't do me any good. So we got everything there, so that really did us no good, but we'll save it. And that's 2 part 4. Okay. And that's and 2 part 4 is over there. Oh, we at page starts at page 28, and they talk about column alias. They talk about the aliases, column names, and alias. Okay, and when we put in that word excellent worker, that's called a literal. And they talk about that at the page bottom 38. You come back over here now, and we see the task. This is the bottom of 39. Get the following 3 columns of data. Okay, and then he gives us some others, display them in order, change the name of employee ID. So we're doing that. He's telling us to do a little tweaking here. So we'll use the column alias. And there's the code at the bottom, page 39. Then we see the beginning table. And then the result table is over there on 40. As you can see, we're just kind of building stuff and going along. Just kind of, working our way into it. All righty, now let's continue on with 4. And here's another one of these 2, 5. We're not going to do that because simply we're selecting everything for the employee's table. Now he has, okay, a variation of 2, 5, 1, and here we're going to do something, and we're going to use the null. And so I'm going to click Query Design, close, and we'll go to the SQL view. And we're going to find those employees, okay, where the manager number is null. And then show the manager ID. We'll go back up. Now, why would we do that? Pretty simple. These people are our managers. So they're not going to have a manager code or name there because, well, they're managers. So I'm going to save this. And this will be this will be 2, Part 5. And really, if you go over there on page 43, you're going to see we add the where clause to the select statement. And then we also use the is null. So we've done 2, Part 5. I'm going to close that up. Now we're ready to move over. And he gives us a variation there at the bottom of page 43. And then on 44, he shows the result table using that different variation. Okay. Now, here over at the bottom of page 44 and into page 45, we talk about using a select clause to get the distinct values in a column. So let's go in here. Okay, we're going to go down and we're going to go down and call, this will be 2.6. And here's what we're going to do. All right, we're going to select, and the distinct means no duplicates, manager ID from employees. Now, if you look at the beginning table, okay, there's the bottom page 41, part 45, you're going to see the manager ID. And we're going to see that, several of them have, all of them have, each of the managers, 201, 202, and 203, they have multiple people. So we just want to select a distinct manager ID from the employees. So this will be 2.6. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to come in here for the query design. I'm going to close it off. And I'm going to go into the SQL view. Now I want to show you something. You say, why do you always do that? By default, when we go to the SQL, okay, the machine will say, okay, hey, that's great. Let me save you some typing. And what will happen is if you don't just get into the habit of wiping it out, you're going to end up putting in select twice and having error. So I just get rid of it, okay, and then I put in, and there we are. And when we look down at the bottom page 45, it's like magic. We see a blank space or a null space, and then 201, 202, 203. There they are. Now I want to talk for a moment, and we will later on, about the difference between 0 and null. Okay, 0 means something I get that I can, something that's 0 means I have nothing there, but I have properties that can be counted. A 0 means I'm starting somewhere and I'm heading to the right, things are getting bigger, or I'm heading to the left, things are getting smaller. Okay? Yeah. But a null means there's no value, nothing in there. It's just occupying empty space. So yeah, it's important to understand. So here's what we got, and that matches up with the bottom page 45. And so I'm going to save this query, and I'm going to save it as 2 part 6. Okay. And you see what we've done. This isn't that scary or that difficult. Okay. Now we're going to go over here, and if you look at page 46, you're going to see he shows you a variation. All right. And there at the bottom of page 46, he shows you this code. Now let's see if he's got it in here. Yeah, watch what we're going to do. We're going to select this distinct manager ID. So we're good with that. From the employees, no problem. Where the employee ID, and this is N, okay, 201, 28, 210. And he shows us the result set on that variation. And we want to get the employee ID, okay, for employee 201, 208, and 210. And so we've used a select clause, okay? And so this is 2.6 variation 1. So let's go ahead and run it, so see what it looks like. So I'm going to click on Query Design, set off with SQL, boom, and I'm going to run a little baby run, okay? And as they show us at the bottom of page 46, the variation for 2.6, we end up with a null and then 203. So I'm going to save this as 2 part 6 variation. Okay. So far, we're stumbling along here. Again, as I told you, it's not that big of a deal. Let's go over and take a look at page 42. Okay, and here we're working on we're going to be working on the select clause to get the distinct values in 2 columns. And at the top of page 49, they show us, all right, select distinct manager ID, credit limit from the employees. So we're going to have no duplicates for manager ID or for credit limit. Now, if you look at page 49, you're going to see the beginning table. You'll see at the top, you'll see the query. Okay. And this is actually 2.7, excuse me. And here's the code. This is at the top of page 49. Then we see the beginning table, which is the employees table. Okay, and then we see the result table. So let's just go ahead and do 2.7. So I'll copy this code. Okay, I'm going to come over here to query design. Excuse me. I'm going to go to SQL, and I'm going to run it, and I'll get my result sets. Now let's look at this for just a minute. Well, before we do, let's make sure we save it. So save it, and that would be 2 part 7. Now let's notice what's going on here. First of all, we have a row with 2 nulls. You can see at the bottom, page 49. Okay, and then we have 1 record with a null. So we have a manager ID there, null. We don't have the ID and we don't have the credit limit. Here we have only the credit limit, and then the rest of these are complete records. And so we just selected distinct. Okay. Now, I'm going to close that because we've done that, and that's over on page 69. Over on, 49. Over on page 50 and through 51, the authors talk about the use of the where clause, W-H-E-R-E, okay? And I see set theory, Boolean can, oh no. What you're going to see, I'll tell you what's in the table. The condition, what does it mean? And then some examples. Okay? So the where clause can handle a lot of business texts, numbers, and dates. So we're going to go in here to the, let's see if we can find, and we don't find the 2.8 because there isn't a query, but there is on page 52, okay? We're going to run the select employee, we're going to run that 2-9. So I'm going to copy this, okay? And then so I've got it highlighted. Let's talk about it for a minute. I'm going to select the employee ID, okay? So far, so good. First name, okay, last name, the manager ID, and the hire date from employees makes sense to me. And here we're going to say where the manager ID equals 203. Well, we're only going to get those employees who has manager, who work for a manager whose ID is 203. And if you take a look over there on page 53, they'll show you the beginning table, okay, and then you'll see the result table. And so I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna go into query design. I'm gonna close it off. I'm gonna go to the SQL view, and I'm gonna run it. And there we go. We have the manager ID, employee ID, okay, and this is where the manager ID is 203. Now, if I want to make sure that the last names are in alphabetical order or the hire dates are as they should be, I can start with the last name. And let's go into the design view. It's right here. And on last name, I'm going to put it in ascending order. Okay. And I'm going to try the same thing over here with the hiring date. Now let's just see what happens. Oh, ran the query. Isn't that nice? It ran the query for us. See, here's an example where I'd say if you go back in. Now let's go down and look at the SQL for a minute, because it's different now from what we had. We've added some complexity. There are going to be some times, folks, and let's go back up to the design view, where the smart play is just to simply use the design view or some iconic environment like this. Meaning I've got this table is represented by thousands of lines of code. The truth is, this is the bare bones skeleton of any kind of query that you run, from looking up something on the internet to buying something, to doing some data mining. So we see as we're moving along, and we'll go down to the SQL view. We're adding some complexity. And I'm going to go back up here to the data view, and here's our result set. Isn't that nice? It has it all lined out. We have their last name, and we have the hire date is in descending order. Pardon me, ascending order. Let's go to the design view. The hire date's ascending, last name is ascending. All right, so far good. And I'm going to come over here now. All right, and I think this was what we did was 2-9. Okay, so that's what we're going to name it. And we're going to save it, and we're going to name it 2 part 9. Okay, no big deal there. You see, I told you it was going to be like this. We'll be talking about code, you'll be looking at it, and then you'll be able to run it. Okay, now at the end of this session, all right, I'm going to upload this, and it will be over in the files, and so you'll have Lunch's database basically done for you. Okay, so let's look at this. And there's some notes here that the authors give us over here on page 53. The select cause lists 5 columns, and the result table shows these 5 columns in the order in which they're listed. And the where clause contains only one condition. Okay. Now they give us another variation on that. And This is at the top of page 54. And we're not going to run this. There's no point because we can see it. We know the beginning table is the employees table. And now watch what we're going to do on the top of page 54. And they may even have this here in the code. Yeah, he does. His example number 2. Okay, we're going to get employee ID, first name, last name, manager ID, hire date for the employees, where the first name equals Henry. Okay, and recall back when we did that work with the evaluation. Okay, and we put in a literal. That's what this is a literal. So let's just go ahead and run it anyway. So Control C, I'm going to go over here to Query Design, close that off, go to the SQL, and I'm going to run it. And there we are. And I'm going to save this as 2 part 9A. Now, over on page 55, they run us through some more of that. Here they use a literal with the name Paula. Okay, and in this case, they did the first name instead of the last name. Now, they had a bunch of Paulas there that you're going to have to figure out. You'll probably make a selection on the basis of their employee ID. As you can see, we just kind of do the same thing and embellish it a little bit. Here's one at the top of page 59, which introduces us to using the dates in Excel. And here we want to get everybody whose hire date is the 1st of July, 2008. So let's go and see if he's got that in here. And there we are. I'm going to select the employee ID, their first name, last name, the manager ID, their hire date from the employees table. And I'm going to only include those people whose hire date equals July 1st, 2008. I could put is less than or greater than, or I could put equal to or greater than. Okay. And let's go ahead and copy that. And then we'll come over here to the query design. And then we get down to the SQL view. And we're going to run it. And there we are. Person hired on July 1st, 2008. And we'll go down to the, let's go down to the design view. Okay. And notice this equals 7,1. That's down here in the criteria. Now I'm going to try something. Let's go back up here into the SQL view. And I'm going to put where the hire date is equal to or greater than. So we'll take a stab at that. Let's run it. And notice what I have now. These are the employees, okay, who have manager ID. And we'll go down here and take a look at the SQL. All right. When we see the employee IDs, the manager IDs, the dates are in descending order. So it looks good. And I'm going to save this, okay, as TWO part 9, and then I'm going to put page 55. All right. So far, so good. Now, you say, is that all there is? That really is. You know, I wish this was more complicated. Okay. Here's another literal, Paula. So we use, but this time it's the first name. Okay, is Paula. Now, if I wanted to, I could put in an equivalent sign, and then within that I could put an asterisk, which means a wild card, and then a wild card right after the P, and I'm going to get everybody whose name starts with a P. So let's try this. So I'm going to put his first name, and I put asterisk. And I want everybody whose name begins with a P. Let's see what happens. I'm here to query design. Close that off. We'll do the SQL. But let's see what happens. Oh, but I got nothing. Okay. I'm going to try something here. I'll just put equal P. Quotes. And then I'm going to try the asterisk, then the P. And then another asterisk, and then another quotes. Oh, let's go back down to the SQL and take a look. That died a slow death. And that's where the formality or first name equal Paula. And so I'm just going to take this all out of here. Let's just ditch it and just run the old query. Okay. Instead of that, I'm going to put okay. Now I think we're ready just to get Paula. Oh. Okay. And I want to create, redesign. And that's a literal. Oh, let's run it. And there we are. Okay. Now, I want to go back to the employees table for just a minute. Okay. And let's see how many people have a first name of Paula. Okay. Or anything that starts with a P. Well, we got correct results. We got a null set. Okay. So that's going to be 2, 9, and that's a literal, and we're going to look up here. And we get Paula. And I'm just going to put it, let's save it. And I'm going to save it as 2 part 9. And I wanted page 55. Okay. No, I don't want to do that. 55. In fact, I could do better than that. I could put 2 part 9, example 4. And that's at the bottom of page 55. All right, I'll save it as that. Oh, we're good. Let's close that. I'll close this one. Okay. All right, we're moving on through chapter 2. Now, as we go on and you get more and more comfortable, or I feel like you probably should be, we'll just look at a query in a chapter and we won't even run it because you'll see it. I'll give you an example at the bottom, okay? Page 56. All right, this is 210, okay? Look, we know what we're getting there, and we also understand that we're putting in a conditional statement where the credit limit is less than some figure. We could have easily said greater than 1750 or equal to or greater than 1750. It just doesn't matter, okay? And we see the beginning table and the ending table, all right? Now, just in the honor, let's just go ahead and run 210. And, you know, the author will show us, and yeah, 210 and then 210 example 2 would be a good one. All right, so I'm going to click Query Design, close, and run. And there they are. And let's go into the design view. And our query is that their lunches were greater than 1750. So I'm going to save the query as 2 let's see, I'm going to call it 2 part 2. I'm trying to figure out a name for this thing. 2 part 2, and I am going to call this example 1. All right. Now, if I want to, okay, I can make this where it's greater than 1750. Now here's the result set. And that's just simply by changing the Boolean logic. So instead of a less than, the credit limit's less than 1750, it could be equal to 1750 or greater than 1750. And in fact, if you take a look at the page, top of page 58, you're going to see the code there in which we use the operator of greater than or equal to. Okay, so we've done that. And we're chugging along here, no big deal. We're going to come down here to section 11. And look, here in 2 example 2, we're going to see the use of the where not clause. And let's look at this for just a minute. Let's just go ahead and run it. Okay. So we'll do query design. I will see what I got going on. Now, let's look at this in the design view. Okay. We wanted everybody who had, we were doing is greater than or equal to. Let's go back in here. Well, I could just do it right here in the credit limit. And is greater than or equal to 17.50. And right. And everybody who has a credit limit greater than or equal to 1750. Okay. Now this one I'm going to use. I'm going to call this one. This is going to be part 2 example 2. Oh, pardon me. We're going to save this as 2 part 10 example 2. And there we be. All right. Now you see again the beginning table. Page 59 lays it out beautifully. There's the code, then there's the beginning table, and then there's the result table. And notice again the little notation there for you. Now, they talk about using the end condition. Okay? And the end condition means we're looking for members of a set. Okay? And so at the bottom of page 61, they show you that one. And let's go, it's going to be 212. Here's where the manager ID. I mean, you know, we're not. So we're going to get everybody except we're going to, here we're going to get anybody. We're going to eliminate folks with this credit limit. Here we're going to eliminate folks with this manager ID. No biggie. Now we're going to use the end condition here. Copy it. Come over here to query design. And I'm going to run it. And here we are. And we have, we use the end condition, okay, to show membership in a set. And let's go back down here and take a look at it in the design view. Who's part of the set who has a manager ID of 202, 203. So we're going to save this and we're going to call it to part 12. And we'll call it example 1. Okay. So far, so good. You say, this is not what I was fearing it would be. No, the fun begins after we go through about 10 or 11 weeks of this. And then I say, okay, here's a task. Pull up these data and the table will work with. That's when the real fun begins. But again, you know, we're just kind of chugging through this. All right. And so we'll close that off. And there at the bottom of page 62 in the textbook, they show you a variation using equal conditions. And notice this is at the bottom of page 62. And let me pull this up here so you can see it. It's a little bit subtle. Here, okay, we're going to select all these people where the manager ID equals 202, and rather than saying using the N manager ID, we use or. Okay, and since we say or, okay, we're going to get either one. And they show you the results set with managers 202 to 203. Then we use a default selection. And notice here we are with the hire date, and then we use the between. And so we're going to do this one. We'll be using the between clause. Notice how the author handles dates in Access. To be safe, put dates within a pound sign. That way the machine knows you're talking about a date. Otherwise, you're going to get a hodgepodge of stuff. Okay, so you'll want to do that. So we'll click that, copy it. We'll come up here. We'll do query design. We'll close it off. We'll go to SQL. We're going to run this puppy, and there it is. And we have, go back down to the SQL view, where the hire date is between the August 16th, 99 and July 2008. Now I'm going to go into the design view. Okay. Here we use the between clause. All right, and I'm going to come over here and let's see if we can get this in ascending order. How we do? How nice. So we tweaked it a little bit, and we're going to save this as to part 13. And we use the between clause. Okay. Uh, 214 is interesting, where we use the wildcard and what's going on here. And I can just talk you through it. What's happening here is you're going to select the employee ID, first name, last name from the employee's table, where you have a last name like, and here anything that has an N in the last name, any last name that contains the word N, the letter N, because we have an asterisk before it and beside it. And if you go there and you take a look, okay, and you'll see that at the bottom of, and you'll see the over on page 68. And so we're going to run this query. All right. Now, when I'm running, what I like to do is in the background, I like to have the music of Bruce Springsteen with his famous song, Born to Run. I'm kidding. Okay. Now I'm going to run it, and I'm going to save this as to part 14. Let's look up there. And the last name has an N. Every one of these people have a last name with N. Aren't they special? Well, if we come over to page 69, we're going to see the null, the is null condition. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And you can look at page 70, okay, and you can come up with basically that beginning table, and you can see the code. In fact, the code is on the page before it. Now we're just getting those employees who have where the manager's name is null. The manager ID is null. And we get the results set table there. It's on page 70. And for fun, let's just go ahead and do it. We're here. Let's run the query. You can see, as I said, this is, we're just kind of working here, and we're adding a little complexity, or we're tweaking it here, there. No big deal. and we find the two people who have a null manager ID. And you can check this versus the result table on page 70. So this is 2. We're going to save this as 2 part 15. And we're rolled on. Now, page 71 and 72, he talks about using the order clause. Okay. And again, he gives us as he mentioned, the first column that listed in this page 71, first column that's listed in order by the clause is the primary sorter. You remember back in 1123 we were doing sorts, and I talked about a primary sort, a secondary sort, and tertiary sort. You thought I was hoofing you, but there it is. Now, okay, let's go over here to 217. And we're going to order it by, if you look at the bottom of page 73, he uses the last name, or he simply chooses the column number to order the data. Okay, and you can see that in the queries at the bottom of page 73. They accomplish the same thing. You're ordering by the last name, or you're ordered by the column number. And there's the result set. And he has notes that tell us about this. Then over on page 75, the author walks us through sorting the rows by several columns in ascending order. Okay. And we're going to do that by columns, and he's got notes there for us, and that's 218. 217 is pretty simplistic. Here's the order by last name or by the column number. Now here on 218, we're going to sort the rows by several columns in ascending order. And we see the beginning table, and then over at the top of page 78 is the result table. So let's take this one. Okay, I'll click copy, and I'll come up here and I'll click create. Query design. We'll run it. Boom. There we go. We ordered it by department code. Notice it's alphabetical, and by last name. And everybody whose employee ID is not 209. We eliminated employee number 209. In fact, we go down here. Let's go down to the design view. And we want to get the, let's just have fun here. The department code. And you see it does not equal 209. So we're going to save this as 2 part 18. Okay. Okay, and that's our result table. Now 219, as I said, well, these will start to get a little more complex here. On this 219, what we're going to do is we're going to sort the rows by several columns. Okay, Where not, order by department code, last name in descending order. And that DESC means descending order. So we're going to run it. And we're going to click create, query design, close, and we'll run it. And we have that result set, okay? And there they are. And then he gives us all kinds of no's, all kinds of notes, if you will. And this will be part 219. Or we'll save it as 2 part 19. So far, so good. Now, over on, and to check your work if you want, page 78 has the correct result table for 2 part 19. Page 79 walks us through a summary of the select process, how it works. And I'm just in step one, you gotta, the from clause, it gets that at the beginning table, okay? And then a where clause, okay, chooses the rows of data. So we start by choosing the beginning table, you use the from clause, and we get the rows of data. Then the select clause chooses which columns of data you want, and then the order by puts them in some kind of order, and it walks you through how this all happens. Okay, and it happens in an order different than how it's written, because the machine doesn't operate, it doesn't think like you and I. Okay, it's going to process data, and it will give us the correct result with what we give it as an input, but it won't mimic us. So he ends up chapter 2 with several key points. Okay, and basically this has been just getting information from the table and some different techniques, and those are highlighted here. As you can see now, I'm going to close off this file, and I don't want to save it, I don't do anything with it, and I'll close this off. Okay, and we have done lunches database 2, and I'm going to close this. All right, so you have lunches DB1 and lunches DB2. Now I'm going to come back over here into the files area. Okay, and I'm going to try to upload each of those. And you want to get lunches database 2. Let's find them on the desktop. Here it is, lunches database 1. And it'll upload it and tell me when it's through. And then I'm going to come back down here and get lunches database 2. Okay, and so the ones you want to use for this are down here. And they're published. It's SQL Fun, Harmon Lunches Database 1, Harmon Lunches Database 2. And so we've had Lunches Database 1, Lunches Database 2, okay? And that will pretty much do it. We've gone quite a bit, about an hour and a half or so. So I'll probably add some additional part 2 to this lecture, so we get to our magical 150 minutes. Well, I'm going to stop sharing, okay? And I'm going to stop the recording.